Welcome, everybody. This is an exciting time for me and for many others. So I want to welcome people from Australia, from Canada, from the United States, from Mexico, and from the United Kingdom. I think it's an interesting result that the conversation, elderly or elder, has generated so much interest. May well be that's where people are in trying to figure things out. How do I want to grow old? How do I want to have that last part of my life be the best part of my life? How do I do that? So I'm Mark Cooper. I'll be the host tonight, which means I hopefully have to do very little. So I'm very happy to have enrolled a panel. And I think you'll get a sense of what can be accomplished here because of the panel selection. So I have two folks, Ron and Rick, who I consider the godfathers of elder. That's how I view this in terms of the lineage of a contemporary elder, an elder in our country, an elder in our culture, and how to be an elder in that culture. And they've been doing it for a while. So I wanted that seniority on the panel. I think it'd be helpful to have that. And then Barbara, who is a highly successful career woman, done what you need to do in a male dominated world and been really has accomplished a lot. And she's made the conversion that she would use the word with me that is last called crone. And I hear women not want to talk about that word. Something about that word is avoided. And she stepped into it. And I thought, wow, what a contribution that would make, is to have that view for all of us. And then there's Melissa, who has realized that she's been on the elder path forever and finally woke up to looking at her steps, and that all the steps she's taken to observe a world in a way that gives her more freedom, more equanimity, more peace, more grace. She's beginning to realize what an elder really is. And I thought that spectrum would give viewers a way to see in themselves what an elder is. Part of knowledge is great, but knowledge with experience is wisdom. And I think we can have that on the call. So we've generated some questions and some housekeeping. So we have so many people that we can't interact in a way that is face to face. So we're going to ask you to put your questions in the chat box. And Melissa, the wind beneath my feet and my wings, will look at the chat box and look at the themes that are being emerged or the specific questions that need to be asked, and she will ask those questions. So that's how that will work. So let me say, to complete this conversation, my intent for this evening is for you to distinguish what elder is. I think we have to look at the word distinguish. My teacher once made a statement that I can't forget. And he said, no distinction, no power. And hard to understand, except as I grew old in life, it made more and more sense. That if I could see it, if I could really distinguish it, then I could adjust myself to what I see. It's a line that my mind drew. It allowed me to see, choose, act with clarity rather than drift on assumptions. Distinction gave me a really sharp experience. It took the blur out of things. So the intent tonight is to take the blur out of elder from elderly because it's collapsed and it needs to be distinguished. So let's begin with the first question here. I think I'll take the harder question first. How does being an elder impact your life? What does it do to your life? How does it change your life? And Barbara, let's start with you if you wouldn't mind, and then people will jump in.
Well, thank you, Mark. Being an elder for me really began shortly after retirement when I went to one of Ron Pevney's retreats, and I discovered a whole new way of thinking about this time of my life. And subsequent to that, I have some health problems. That's what we are most knowledgeable about in our culture, I think, as we age. But more importantly, the way my heart and soul has opened to learning about myself, learning about others, and caring about others has been miraculous for me. I think it's a time when our bodies may get weaker, but our souls get stronger, our brains get stronger, ideally, if we keep them active. And for me, it has been a time of learning about myself, learning about this time of life, and understanding that shift from knowledge to wisdom, which I think takes experience, but also takes contemplation. And so that's been a blessing for me. It's been literally the best time of my life. So thank you, Mark.
No. Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would jump in here, and I would say for me, I really prefer to think of myself as eldering in a process rather than a noun that I have somehow achieved elderhood. I know that I have developed, some number of elder qualities that I think are critical to what it is to be an elder. But I see myself on a long journey, and I've got a long way to go. And so I tend most commonly to speak of eldering, and I call my work conscious eldering, because it's a process of unfolding more and more of those elder qualities that are in me, so that hopefully every day or every week they shine a little bit brighter, and I shine a little bit more as an elder.
Let me interrupt because you bring up a particular point. You said qualities twice. And I think people need to know what you see from your years of experience with elders and creating elders in others. What are the qualities that are necessary to become an elder?
I think one of the main qualities necessary to become an elder is having a strong belief, contrary to what our society tells us about aging, a strong belief that we have a meaningful role to play. I believe I have a meaningful role to play. And I have a belief that my later years can be a time of growth, a time of ripening, a time of reaching fulfillment. And those are the kind of qualities I see more and more in the people that I respect as people who are elders or on the journey toward eldering.
Me too.
Can I jump in here, Mark?
Sure, everybody can jump in.
Because I want to point to one thing that's, I think, a part of eldering. First, I want to do this. And that is that I think I either fell asleep or Mark's memory dropped off because I don't think I got introduced in the.
Oh, I am sorry.
It's okay. That's not important. I just want to point to that as part of this milieu that we're in is that. So, and I think we all can own that. So, I might have fallen asleep. It's possible. So I just want to say that. But one of the things that kind of lit up for me when I was preparing in just the 15 minutes before we started was that I really spent the first half of my life trying to become somebody and put so much effort into that, my periodontal practice and my relationships and all of that. Trying to become somebody was so important. And towards the end of that portion of my life, I started to realize that that really wasn't what it was about. That wasn't fulfilling enough for me. And I started to realize that there's a spiritual element in this that I hadn't really embraced or understood. And I spent the next time part of my life trying to become nobody, and found that that really wasn't exactly it wasn't accurate for who I was, because I was somebody in this world, on this planet. And I think becoming an elder is the ability to integrate those two, to be fully embodied in this world, and to experience the glory of these senses that we have, the wonder of them, and still have a spiritual connection and an understanding of the whole breadth of this, as mysterious as it is.
I think
I
go
want
ahead.
to jump in, David, because I regret that you weren't introduced. I regret that you weren't introduced to me about 50 years ago, because I really needed you as a periodontist, and I ended up having a different periodontist. But the other reason I
Thank
want to
you.
say here is that we have introduced ourselves by our name. You see my name on the screen, Rick Moody. I have a friend of mine. His name is Bob Wolf. I'm actually going to give you his name. He met the real Rick Moody. He was a guy who wrote, some of the people on this call probably know what I'm talking about. He wrote the screenplay to The Ice Storm. And he wrote all kinds of stuff in The New Yorker. And when I worked for AARP, people used to come up to me and say, "Oh, Rick, congratulations on your essay." And I have to say, no, I'm not that Rick Moody. Anyway, Bob Wolf met him, the other Rick Moody, as I call him, at a party. And he ran up to me and said, "I know the real Rick Moody, except no substitutes." And I like that saying because I thought it applies to me, as if I've accepted a lot of substitutes under the name Rick Moody. That isn't my name, by the way. My name is Harry R. Moody. You can look me up in Amazon, all the rest of that stuff. But people who know me, now people on this call know me, you can call me Rick Moody. But we're left with that question, which, David, you brought up. You were actually quoting, "I'm nobody." That's what Emily Dickinson said. She said, "I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too?" Emily Dickinson really was a nobody, in the sense that nobody knew much about her at all during her life. She had to die before she became a somebody. Maybe that's our situation too. The
I'm
Sufis
hoping for
die
that.
before you die. I don't know. What do you think?
One of the things that elders express is a relationship with their current life that is more appreciative and more accepting and more able to be with the issues that other people are distraught about. Elder has got a calmness, what David talked about, and I have the Jewish guilt going on about missing the introduction, but that will reside for a while. And getting to the middle and not hanging out on either side, the emotional, crazy, nuts, flurry of thought side, or the I don't care side, or that's the way it is side. But somewhere, whatever is going on, I find that the elder has enough consciousness and practices that allow him to get to the middle where the waves are not very strong. And that's an amazing phenomenon to be able to do that. I think that's one of the gifts of elder. It's like, wow, I can get to the middle. Where's Melissa on the screen? I don't see her. Yes, she is.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, I want to say several things, Melissa. Number one, she's in Australia, so I want to thank her for bringing the continent over to this conversation. And she had to get up at like 2:30 or some crazy time to be able to do it. And she's recently experienced the loss of a parent, which is a huge chunk of life that's it's irreplaceable. I call it a heart scar, just that will never go away. But her commitment to becoming an elder is shown by her being on the call with all that complications. So Melissa, you're now aware that you're on the elder path. That recent Substack was, I thought, brilliantly done. What do you see that's,
Thank you.
yeah, what do you see as an elder for yourself? What do you see is the qualities, as we started with talking about, what are the qualities that you recognize that allowed you to say, you know, I am an elder?
I think, as has already been expressed, I like the term eldering because I don't see it as a destination anymore. And I think I only came to that insight a few days ago. As Mark said, I've been sitting with my dad as he died. He passed away just literally a few hours ago. And I think it's also being able as an elder or an older person to be able to hold different and conflicting emotions at the same time, which really came up for me a lot in the last couple of days, both being very sad about my dad, but at the same time, very appreciative and happy that, you know, he was going to be beyond the pain of the actual process of dying. The whole concept of mortality obviously comes up as your parent is passing away. And thinking about impact, I think for me, it's a lot about a widening of perspective. It's almost like you've been seeing everything recently been traveling. We had the wonderful experience of going to Kenya, and really I've been grounding myself in nature for the last couple of weeks, which has been very healing. But, you know, when you've got a camera and you're on the zoom focus and then you suddenly put it onto the wide angle and you can see things in the field that you couldn't see before. So it's a different perspective that I have now that I'm finding really interesting. It's a bit like you were saying, Mark, about bringing things into focus.
Yeah.
That you couldn't see before. Yeah, so look, for me, it's being on a journey. It's, I think, never ending. I've done a lot of reading, including books by some people on the panel. I've done life review. I mean, it all happened for me when I sold my business and looked to retirement, and then really have been thinking, what do I want to do? So I'm filled with purpose and energetic and hoping to make a big contribution and impact in the world.
You bring up the magic word. You bring up the
Purpose.
magic word.
Purpose.
Yeah. Yes. But I don't mean purpose, the kind of, I believe there's levels of purpose. There's the ones, the purpose is to learn to tie your shoes so you could be with the peer group. There's purposes that moved you through your careers. There's purposes that moved you through your relationships. You know, there were, I will call them cultural and personal purposes that you use to motivate yourself to get the things done you needed to do. But I think the purpose when you get to elder is different. It just,
Yeah, and I'm just going to answer that quickly because I think for me, it's who do I choose to be is my purpose now. Who am I going to be in the world, and how will I present myself and be available for other people?
okay.
You know, Mark, there's a definition of purpose that is really meaningful to me. I think I first heard a version of this from Richard Leider. Many of you may know him. He's written so much about purpose. But to me, as related to eldering, purpose is a reason for getting up in the morning that is bigger than just my own pleasure and security. A reason for getting up that's bigger than just me. And that's the way I try to live. And I think that that's what really defines an elder. We get to this point, we recognize that my life, our lives need to be about something bigger than just us, because we're helping to create the future that our children, our descendants are going to be living in.
Yes. So the purpose that you have it doesn't have the pronoun I. So if you take a look at most of the purposes that you've had, it began with I, me, my. This one doesn't have that one. Then the purpose would not be ego generated because there's no I. Then that allows for a different view. If I'm going to, and the purpose has always been there. Ron, you have talked about this a lot, and the purpose is there. It needs to be unraveled, opened up. But a higher purpose takes you out of the picture, and that scares a lot of people. So, Ron,
I'm going to say, when we talk about elder, it almost seems to me that elder is not so much a state that I attain, but a role that I grow into. Almost like an archetypal role that is so needed by every society throughout history, and certainly by ours. And so in that particular role, then what I do is a part of something bigger than me. It's part of a sacred role. And my purpose is how I'm going to embody that particular role as fully as I can.
Yes, 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 yes.
Mark, I'd like to follow up with two things. First of all, a quote from that sage philosopher David Bowie, who said late in his life, old age is that time when you become the person you were always meant to be. And I love that concept that we're growing into ourselves. And the second one is this process that we're all talking about sometimes means fighting against what we've been told about this time of life. And particularly for women, for me, fighting against what I've been told it is to be a woman. And that's where my understanding and my interest in becoming a crone has been. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, crone was an honored title that elder women obtained, and elder women were the ones who made the laws and did the healing and had significant roles in society. As that changed and our societies frequently became more patriarchal, crones became witches, and eventually many of them were killed, of course. So we have to be aware of the struggle that it may be to grow into who we were meant to be, particularly in a culture that doesn't honor this time of life the way we would like it to.
Well,
Or you'd probably be very happy if I sent you a greeting card that said, "Happy birthday, crone." But a lot of people,
I would be, but
you
many
would be
people
happy.
wouldn't.
I'll get the card as quickly as I can, but a lot of people would not be happy with that at all.
Because they've been acculturated.
They've been
not to be.
acculturated. And that's the thing I want to say about this word elderly, to come back to what Mark was asking me. Say elderly versus elder. Well, both those words are terms that we invented. I wouldn't describe my dog Fido as an elder. And I also wouldn't say he's elderly. I'd say aging. Okay. And when we want to escape from our bad images of age, we say, okay, well, you're an older person. You're an older person. That's a way of saying, okay, you're still a person, but you're older. I think this presents us with a real challenge, because we're trying to become something, which is ourselves perhaps, but we haven't got a lot of models that we can go out and look and say, oh, here's the elder. Here's what I want to aspire to being, because it's an aspirational brand, if I could use marketing language.
Mm-hmm.
Please do. I think we're ready to be able to pierce at least the culture that abhors aging. You got to stay young in this culture, man. Who are you if you can't generate, be productive, all that stuff? I'm going to take responsibility for us. I think we haven't gotten the job done. We have if we look from responsibility, who we've been being in the world as elders is elderly. That's who we've been. So how do we need to be in the world? And every one of the, well, at least the people that I'm communicating with are working on how do I need to be? Because people see that. People say, well, I want that. I want to be like that. That's what works. It's existential. That's just how it works. We've not been elders in the world. And that's been part of the problem. And we can do that.
Yeah.
We haven't done that.
You know, I would like to jump in here too. There's a certain element of discussion that happens in people who are accomplished, I think, that has a tendency to have an inherent feeling of guilt if you're not producing something big.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say outside of yourself, it all automatically starts to feel like building something big. And I don't think that's what's really a fundamental part of conscious
Elder.
process of becoming an elder. So I'll just read a quote from Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver got saved by the beauty of the world. I mean, for her, beauty was the most important thing. And if she could bring that into her poetry, that would be satisfying and make her somebody within herself. And I also think that we have a tendency to, as Mark was saying, to think that we can get away from ourselves when, as long as we have a body, that's really not totally possible. The ego is part of our existence and a valuable part of our existence, so that we want to do something that's bigger than ourselves or other than ourselves. Ourselves is still there. And I think it's because if you follow this down to the total lack of ego, you give away the pleasures of life, because that is an important element of being alive to me. We have these amazing senses, and we've come here, in my experience, to experience them.
Mhm.
So I think that's an important thing, and give away that guilt idea of trying to be somebody fantastic.
Yeah. Other than you are.
Mhm.
I think elders learn there's only one of you.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
changes everything. It's like, oh, I was listening to, we spent time with David White, and I always have this jealousy because of his languaging capacity and his charisma and the way he speaks. And then I had a realization, I'll never be David White. I'll just be Mark Cooper. And then it was, oh, but he could never be Mark Cooper.
Mm.
He could never be that. Well, I won't go into the adjectives I could use, but he could never be that. And so once you get whole with yourself, and I think that's an elder, they have integrity with who they are, whole, complete, unbroken, nothing left out. This is who I am. And they're not performing for anybody else. So let me introduce David, because this would be embarrassing for him and it would be great for me, because I apologize. I love David Dinner. We were in Maui together, I believe. I remember, maybe it was Kauai.
It's
And
Kauai.
we were at a table and we talked about this 10 years ago, about what could be if we followed the path of elder. And so, he's been a brother for me for many, many years, and I just really love him. And I'm glad that he supports me in the ways that make me feel the best of myself. So thank you for doing that. Okay, I'm going to jazz this up, and no one is prepared. So I appreciate unpreparedness. I'm going to call on people and just see how they are engaged with this conversation. So Maureen, you're up on the top of my screen. Could you unmute yourself, please, or do you need to unmute her There you go.
Sure. I wasn't sure whether you wanted comments, reflections from.
I think it's time I think the
Okay.
right.
Yeah, I figured if you were ready. Otherwise, I was just about ready to put my hand down. So thank you. So just a few reflections, since I'm sure there's others who want to share if there's more time, and I may share some more, but I think a few is a good for now. Is, the Bob Dylan movie is, a complete unknown. And you covered that. I don't want to get into that. You articulated it. Those of you who've spoken, what that means. The other thing about purpose is Eckhart Tolle in A New Earth and The Power of Now. I mean, he's not the only one, but he's monetized it um, and taught it around the world. Is basically our purpose is being present in the moment, whatever's coming up in the moment. And as we're aging, and those of us, we all, we're looking around and we're all in the same, generation of elders, conscious aging, is we understand that. And I want to provide another take on, not different, but just add to it about elder. I've always been an elder. So I'm the oldest of 6 children. So I was referred to as the eldest and the elder in my family. So it gave me, there's positives and negatives and challenges about being the oldest. And I don't need to really get into that kind of story. But the reason I brought that up is because now I'm very grateful to have so many older brothers and sisters. And they're all here in this community. I'm in every community I'm in now. Since retirement, everyone looks like me. And the last thing I want to share is what was recently said by David. Although the others have, Barbara and Melissa and Ron and Rick have also shared this in a way, is we're now in a time of intellectual humility. And there's research on that, but I don't want to get into that or my background at this point. But instead of accolades and accomplishments, we know that there's lots of wisdom in the room. And we're looking at all that wisdom right now. And we don't need to be, and it was made a comment about being, actually, I was on another webinar on Indeed Future 2025. And Adam Grant said this, is that you don't need to be the smartest person in the room. However, you need to make the room smarter. And that is our accomplishments. That's our creativity. That's our co-creating. It's being present, being conscious, and being intellectually humble. And I like having a lot of wisdom in the room. So thank you for letting me share that. Appreciate it.
You are welcome. I think you point to the issue. We have a lot of wisdom in the room and it never leaves the room. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Come on. Well, it's, what we're not working on is not what I find most available in the elder world and the growing old world is how to make growing old better. Okay. I want to do that. Of course, I want to stay healthier. I want to be all that. But we don't have the conversation. What do we do with the wisdom and get it out there so they stop killing each other? So we don't live in a world where we don't feel peace and grace and the kind of things we find security in conversations with ourselves like this, but not out there. The job ultimately is getting it out there, and we haven't done a very good job. But I think there's enough of us to, be responsible in a way that goes, okay, I've worked on this for a very long time. I'm an elder. I have the qualities that they spoke about on this webinar. Just like you, Maureen, I'm engaged. I'm participating. I'm getting the community around me. Everybody is doing something like that here. That's the first phase. But getting it out into the world, sitting down at a table where people will listen, where they make decisions about the future. We know we're not there. We're not there.
Mark, if I can share, when I'm in a group of other elders, I certainly feel fed and appreciated. But I'm purposefully in a couple of big groups where there are various ages involved. They're both groups of women, but I'm surprised when one of the younger participants will say to me after what I saw was a relatively insignificant discussion that she got wisdom from what I said.
Yes.
So for me, it's a surprise, usually. That's
Mm.
where I think the shift in ego comes at this age. It used to be my ego drove me. Now my ego is surprised. But if you're not with younger people, they're not going to get the benefit of your wisdom. And
No, no.
that's been important for me.
We can
I'd
talk,
love to jump in and add to that, because
please.
I've been spending my last year doing research and writing a book for grandparents. I'd love to know how many on the call today are grandparents. And we talked before about responsibility and the role of elder. I think a great place to start with sharing our wisdom is with our grandchildren.
Yeah.
And, I've spent my professional last couple of decades teaching people how to be mentors. So now I'm trying to teach grandparents how to bring mentoring qualities into their conversations with their grandchildren. And we can start just by sharing our stories. We're sharing our wisdom just by telling what's happened in our lives and just speaking authentically from the heart. If we want to influence young people, our grandchildren are a great place to start. It's our responsibility, actually, to do that.
Yeah.
I want to underscore what you said about responsibility, because I live in San Mateo, California. My wife and I moved here for only one reason: to be near our daughter and our 3 grandchildren. That's it. Okay. That's why I'm here. I left Boulder, Colorado, great place. I had to be here. But just last month, I wrote a letter to my granddaughter when she would be in 2092, when she would be the same age as me. It's a letter of apology, for the world. I said, I'm not here anymore, but you have to know that we tried our best. Some of us tried to make the world better for you. I say that because I spend most of my time these days doing something I never did before in my life. Yeah, I worked for AARP, but I never worked really politically. Now I'm in the streets. Every weekend I'm out there in a demonstration. I'm part of Indivisible and Elders Climate Action, all the other groups. And if we don't do this, we're leaving a mess behind. That's irresponsibility. Anyway, I don't want to get into politics too much, but I had to say that because today is September 11th.
Yes, exactly.
Today is September 11th. And 24 years ago, I was on a plane at LaGuardia Airport. I'm a lifelong New Yorker, heading for a conference on conscious aging. Right, Ron? Remember that? The conference never happened, okay? Because the plane never got off the ground. All got out of the airport. I'm looking up. There is the World Trade Center on fire, okay? This was at 8:30 in the morning. The smoke is coming out. The flight attendant, there are thousands of people there and at that airport, all coming out. No planes anymore. And she puts her hand on my shoulder and says, you never know when your time will come. This is back to the point we made earlier, Barbara, about end of life. You never know.
You never know. But we don't, the question is, elders know and can be with the end of life differently than most people are with end of life.
Yes.
So we have a different relationship that allows us to live life on purpose, with qualities, with loving your grandchildren, with all the things, because we live with death.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When I want to talk about this call is probably going to only go an hour. I think we're doing great. I'm getting real value out of listening to you and hearing what's being emerging in terms of the understanding of what an elder is. And I want to acknowledge the panel now for being elders and their speaking. It's been gratifying to me. And we'll call on other people, but right now I'm happy. Let me say it that way, because you never know when you get people together if it's going to have an outcome like this. There's somebody that I say that I like us to look at. Okay, we have this wisdom. We have this eternal compassion. When you saw the towers go, your heart broke in a way. It just was, all that, and the fear and all that. But you're an elder. And you live in the conversation in the middle, which has all that going on, but also the other side, which is self-discovery, self-understanding, you see the world the way it really is. You're able to deal with it in a way that keeps you equanimous with it. You know, that's the way it is. You don't get sucked into either side. There's a certain presence that you have when you're sitting down with people where elder emerges, where they listen to you in a way that you know you're being heard. You know you're eldering. You have that experience of being an elder. It's like, oh, okay, I'm actually being heard. My wisdom is flowing from me. There's no resistance to what I'm saying. It's a dance that we're dancing together. So I'm going to ask you an existential question. So have you ever had those experiences where you are elder at the moment? And when you are, what's different about you when you're not that? How come you're not that all the time? Something is present when you're an elder that allows for that exchange of conversation. Barbara, you were talking about intergenerational. So how do you know when you're an elder, when you're speaking?
You know, for me, when I am truly speaking from my elderhood, I am feeling it is okay, and more than okay, it is beautiful to trust my authentic self. Back to that. And when I am not trusting my authentic self, when I have all these voices rumbling in my head that you should be more articulate, or you should be more like Mark Cooper, or you should be whatever, then I try to be something else. And my energy, the best of me doesn't flow. The best of my elderhood doesn't flow. And I think one of the biggest changes that's happened for me as I have aged is I am slowly but surely getting it through my thick head that it is okay to be my authentic self, that I touch people in my own authentic way, even if I'm not as articulate or as smart or as whatever. And in those moments, then people pick it up. People have permission to be their authentic selves, and I'm modeling what it is to truly be an authentic elder.
Do you know?
Still working on that one. Pardon?
I'm just wondering, do you know when you're not that? When you know when you're forcing it?
Yeah. I know when these other voices are rumbling around, and I'm grabbing onto them, and I'm trying to be something else.
And how long does that last?
It sure feels good to know that my power as an elder is from allowing myself to be authentically me.
Yes, exactly. That's freedom. Just, you know, and one of the things that I found for myself was all my prison bars were made up by me, that I didn't have the key, and that I was relating to other people and not being who I was because I had thoughts about being that something was wrong with me. And I think for elders, they don't have anything's wrong anymore. Oh, that is so freeing. This is it. Souffle's done. You can't put it back in the oven. That's all.
The souffle's done. I like that analogy.
We're done. And then loving that, you know, coming to, you know, that's who I am. And then making it the gift, because mortality tells you it's the gift you got now. So it gives you a certain experience of life. That's great. Barbara, Ron stepped on you a bit, so I forget the question. So it was about presence. So when you were talking to intergenerationally, and you know you're being heard as an elder, do you know when you're not being heard as an elder? And can you make the leap?
I think when I fall back into old roles, or I fall back into old anxieties, I know how that feels. I'm not calm. I'm not confident. I'm not at peace.
Well, how do you get back?
You know, for me, it's somebody put in the chat just now the word flow. For me, it's the practices that I do to try to make sure that I'm staying in touch with where I am on this journey. You know, everything from journaling to prayer to meditation to time in nature. It's not a I'm not there, I do this thing, and now I am there. It's much more of an ongoing process that I think the way I'm living my life now, I'm there more often than I might have been 2 years ago. So I think it's um, it's insipid in a good way. It's growing and coming. Sometimes I'm aware of it and sometimes I'm not, but I know how it feels, and it feels calm, it feels at peace, and it feels sometimes surprising.
I think one of the challenges of elder is when they know they're not being elders.
Mhm.
It's like, it's tough to talk to them. They're not hearing me. I feel uncomfortable. I feel self assessing. It's when the barriers are gone. Okay, I'm going to call in a couple people. We're going to close on the hour. Two things. One, if I don't have your permission to use the video, please let me know. We'll X you out. But I think you've said some really powerful things today, and I think it allows us to look at elder in a new light. So, Maggie, you look like you'll be surprised if I call on you, so I'm going to call on you. You're on an iPhone.
Actually, I'm showing up on my. Do you have me?
Yes, I have you both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I started out with the iPhone, and then I went to my computer, and I didn't turn off the iPhone. So now you have the one computer.
Yeah, we have you. So
Okay.
what are your takeaways? What are your takeaways?
Well,
please?
I'm thrilled to be here. I'm one of those grandparents that is able to be very involved in my grandchildren's lives, and that's a total gift. And I didn't realize it until I started helping out with that, and being such a big part in their lives that I'm able to share with them the wisdom that from all of my experiences, and to just be there and hold space for them and let them know that they're loved unconditionally and they're always safe. Just being able to be there and just day-to-day things. It's such a blessing to be able to do that. As I was in a women's circle about a month ago, and most of the people there, women there, were quite young. And I didn't realize how they looked to me for that wisdom. And when I started speaking, it occurred to me, and I was almost dumbstruck because I didn't know what to say. It was a role that I wasn't comfortable in. And so I realized that I needed to look at this in a different way, because I had not really embraced the idea of elderly and elderhood, because I'd spent so much time around younger people helping with my grandson since I retired, and I just wasn't actively involved in that whole thing. So I've been looking at it very differently, and that's why being here is so great for me, because it's pulling all that information that I am yearning for. It's putting it all out there for me right now. I'm integrating it. I notice that I don't feel comfortable in a lot of the language with it, but I know I'll get there. But it's a process, and we get to do that. That's what's so incredible. We get to do that when we step into that role.
Yes. Perfect.
So,
I mean, no comment on things that are perfect. It's like, yes, we all of a sudden we have an opportunity to create life.
Yes.
Oh, now how am I going to do this last third? Who am I going to be this last third? What am I up to? You know, the fundamental questions that we can now ask ourselves without restriction. How interesting is that? All right, Neil, we're going to ask you. You look pensive and thoughtful. Would you unmute yourself, please? Neil Jones. Yeah, love that face. Holy shit, he called on me. Great. What are you getting out of this? What are you seeing for yourself? What are your takeaways?
Oh, well, I'm in my mid-60s, so I feel like I'm on the threshold of
Yes.
of elderhood. I'm feeling a lot of anticipation and a lot of hopefulness. You know, in our society, we do tend to look down on old age. And someone else has pointed out we honor youthfulness so much, too much in this society. I'm getting a lot of hopefulness from this discussion that yes, I want to have even more to contribute to my immediate life and to our society. I'm going to have even more of a sense of purpose as I get older, as I become more aware of who I really am and give myself even more permission to be my authentic self and let go of the roles. I should say, let go of the tendency to let my roles define me, whether that be a Unitarian minister or a psychologist, whatever those roles may have been in life. Not let those define me, but simply be avenues for me to express myself. So that's the kind of hopefulness I'm getting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. You put a period on this whole thing for me. I was like, oh, that's what we set out to accomplish. And I appreciate you now having an opening that you didn't have before. There's a distinction between elder and elderly. Oh, I see. A creative life as opposed to one dictated by the culture and my mind. That's the other enemy in this. All right, I'm going to complete by the noon hour over here on the West Coast.
Mark,
Yes.
Alan has had his hand up for some time.
I'm sorry.
Alan, I'm going to bring him on so that he can
Thank you.
ask his question. You're welcome.
I apologize. I don't see the hand, but you're good. Alan.
Yes.
No,
Yes, just a quick question or reflection. What is the importance of humility for elders? Because I've heard a lot about sharing wisdom, etc., and especially in interaction with younger generation.
yeah.
May-
Let me answer that if you wouldn't mind.
True.
So humility for me used to be embarrassment. It was showing people calling on something that I didn't want them to see. I was humbled by that. Now, Alan, humble is being knowing that I don't know anything.
Right.
That I really just, I'm the leaf in the river, not the big boulder in the river, and I'm just floating down there trying to figure it out as I go. So I'm humble about not knowing. I think that's to answer your question. What is that for an elder? I don't know. But I'm not embarrassed not to know. And I'm not embarrassed as the person who doesn't know. I'm just me. I'm glad you're here. How's the weather in Ireland, I should ask, but it's okay. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing what you do for us. Okay. Jimmy, you also, would you mind unmuting yourself, and then we'll complete with you.
Mark, can I interrupt for 1 second? I mean, this is so alive, and I want to either suggest another webinar or that we go a little longer, because there's so much life in this room. I hate to shut it down.
I don't want to shut it down, David. Yes, yeah, we could go longer, and it would be
or do it again.
Or do it again. My preference is do it again.
Okay.
And expand it. And I'll introduce you first, so I don't feel as bad as I feel right now. Because maybe with stars, 5-star David, it'll be one of those. No, I think we're here. I think this is exactly what we said we would do, and that bringing elder into the world, but not as a fictional character, that you're the author of your story, that you're writing that for yourself, and that life is now with passion, with interest, with curiosity, with, oh yeah, this is really amazing. This is the time. The elder is a gift. And living enough of that conversation out there, by the way, David, my thought is, well, we can make a difference. I just want to finish with the panel, and I'll start with you, David. How was this for you, and what do you see? And I know what's next. I can hear it in your voice and you're speaking. But what did you get out of it today? What did you see for yourself?
Well, first of all, I want to really thank the panel and the wisdom that came from so many quarters. I thought it was extraordinary, and just the seeds of the responses from the people in the webinar was mind blowing. I mean, I'd like to hear from everybody in this room. Of course, that's not possible, but so I got a lot out of that, and I look forward for more. I think this is the best time of my life. I'm on the way back from elder. I'm so old. I'm arguably the oldest person in this room.
No, you are.
I'll bet I am. But anyway, whether I am or not doesn't matter. But anyway, it's a gift to be in this time of life, and to make it to this point is a gift. And I love to share it with everybody.
Good.
Everybody here. Thanks, Mark, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. All right, Ron, what about you? How was this for you, and what are your takeaways?
Well, that was a fulfilling experience for me. One thing is, I was recognizing there's so many different facets and ways of talking about this wonderful thing called elderhood. And when you teach something like I do, you kind of have your way of talking about it. But then to hear these other expressions, it adds so much richness for me, and so much depth and so much color. And so I really would love to do this again, and I hope you invite me.
Okay.
I'm happy to do it again too. I've spent many years talking about artists. Not that I'm an artist myself, but I've given lots of talks about Rembrandt and Georgia O'Keeffe and Matisse and people like that. And the reason why that's important, what happens to these artists when they get old, when they can break out and experience what some call the late freedom. That's a powerful idea, late freedom. It's not original with me, by the way. But Coomaraswamy, the great art critic, put it this way. He said, it's not that the artist is a special kind of person. It's that each person is a special kind of artist. So if we could think that way about ourselves and about our future, we would say, it's not over. It's not too late, and you're not too old.
I'm getting happier by the minute. It's really wonderful.
Good. We want you to be happy.
Yeah, you do. Melissa, where are you? Is she still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. And
My
how about
dad
you?
kept saying that over the last few days. I'm still here. And that's something to be grateful for. Yeah, there's just been so much come up in this conversation, which is really helpful. I'd love to do it again. My plea is that we make it a couple of hours later, if possible, so that I can bring in so many of my Australian
Good point.
colleagues and make it really, truly global.
Yeah. Good point.
Well, we also have Ireland to be concerned about, so we have the other side too. So we'll figure.
Well, maybe we can do one for us and one for the Irish.
Oh, there you go. And what are your takeaways? What for you happened on the call for you, Melissa?
Oh, look, it's just seeing that bigger perspective. Each conversation just adds another layer of meaning for me, which is wonderful.
Barbara, we're going to complete with you. Anything for you?
Well, I have really loved being part of this panel and getting to know the other panelists. I look forward to seeing Melissa's book and signing up for Rick's newsletter. And I think one of the things that I'm going to take from this is more attention to the comings and goings of my ego.
Yeah. Sometimes hard to keep up.
Okay, we now have the subject for webinar 2. Thank you, everybody. It's been extraordinary. Everything that I intended to achieve has been achieved. So I feel fulfilled, and I want to thank
Very
you
good.
for that. We will set that time and send out the surveys and figure out the things that need to be figured out for the next webinar. And this should become something special. And David, thank you for what you said at the end, because that was my my intuition was, wow, this is really an interesting space to be in. that there's something that's been created, and what Rick said is more parts of the whole thing are getting filled in by peoples from various places. So thank everybody, so much appreciated, and we'll keep you informed because we have your email. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Mark, and everyone else. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.